Okay, so you want to know why young people aren't, you know,
Yeah,
doing it as much these days?
it's a good question.
Yeah, it is. And it's actually a lot more interesting than you might think at first.
Right.
We're not just going to be talking about hormones and dating apps or anything.
No, no, no.
There's a lot more to this.
It's a much bigger story.
Yeah, so you sent me this article, and I think we can really dive into this.
Yeah, definitely.
Why are young people having less sex?
Hmm.
Catchy title, right?
It is.
So let's get into it.
Okay.
First of all, just to set the stage a little bit, we got to acknowledge that like ideas about sex have always been kind of fluid.
Absolutely.
Like what's considered normal today might have been totally taboo like a generation or two ago.
Right, and every generation thinks they invented sex.
Totally.
But what's happening now is a little bit different because
Yeah.
it's like all these different things kind of coming together at the same time to change things.
Like think about it this way. How many people do you know under 30 who are living on their own?
Not that many.
Yeah, it's not like when our parents were young,
Right.
they were out of the house by 18.
Exactly. You got a job, you got an apartment,
Married,
maybe you had some kids.
boom.
Yeah, totally different world.
But now,
You're looking at crazy housing prices,
Oh,
jobs
terrible.
that don't pay enough.
student loans.
Oh, yeah, don't even get me started on student loans.
So many people are living with their parents for way longer,
Mm-hmm.
which, you know, doesn't really lend itself to a thriving romantic life.
Not really. I mean, where are you going to go?
Exactly.
The basement.
Yeah, not exactly romantic.
Not ideal.
Okay, so we've got the whole money thing impacting things, but then we got to talk about the elephant in the room, or should I say the smartphone in the pocket.
Oh, yeah, technology is a huge part of this.
Right, like you've got all these dating apps.
Swipe left, swipe right.
It seems like it should be easier than ever to find someone.
In theory.
Uh,
But then you're spending all this time online crafting this perfect image of yourself.
Yeah, filtering your photos.
And you're constantly bombarded with all these other seemingly perfect people.
It's exhausting.
It is. And it can make real life feel kind of disappointing.
Totally. And then there's the whole instant gratification thing.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's so easy to just zone out with Netflix or video games.
Why bother going on a date when you can just binge watch your favorite show?
Seriously. And speaking of instant gratification, we kind of have to talk about porn.
Yeah, that's a big one.
It's everywhere now.
And it can really mess with your expectations.
For sure. Like, what you see in porn is not real life.
At all. It's all fantasy.
Right. Like, no one's actually having sex like that.
And the bodies you see are often airbrushed and enhanced.
So it's no wonder that some young people are feeling anxious about their own bodies and performance.
Yeah, it can create a lot of pressure.
Okay, so we've talked about how technology and porn are impacting things, but then there's this whole other thing,
What's that?
like the hashtag #MeToo movement,
Yeah,
which has been super important for raising awareness about consent
absolutely.
and calling out bad behavior.
It's definitely changed the conversation.
But I do wonder if it's also made some young people more hesitant to approach intimacy.
It's possible, like maybe they're just more cautious now,
Yeah, and they don't want to do anything wrong.
which is good,
Definitely.
but it can also create a lot of anxiety.
Right, so you've got all this stuff going on, and then on top of it all, we've got this mental health crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Like anxiety and depression are at an all-time high.
And that definitely plays a role in people's sex drive.
Yeah, like if you're not feeling good mentally,
Your libido is going to take a hit.
yeah, it makes sense.
It's all connected.
Right, so if young people are having less sex and delaying relationships,
What does that mean for the future?
yeah, like are we going to see totally different family structures?
Maybe people will have kids later in life or not at all,
Maybe relationships will be less about physical intimacy.
and more about emotional connection.
Or maybe some people will just choose to focus on their careers and personal growth.
It's hard to say for sure.
Yeah, but it's super interesting to think about.
It is.
So to sum it all up,
Yeah.
there are a lot of reasons why young people might be having less sex these days.
It's not just one thing.
Right, it's a whole bunch of things.
Economics, technology, social change.
Mental health.
It's all connected.
So here's a final thought for you. If this trend continues, what will the future of human connection look like?
That's a really good question.
Yeah. Will technology help us connect in new ways, or will it just make us more isolated? This is a conversation that's just getting started.
Definitely.
We're going to keep exploring it in future deep dives.
I'm looking forward to it.
You too.
This is fascinating stuff.
It really is. All right. Thanks for joining me for this deep dive,
My pleasure.
and we'll see you next time.
See you then.